My name is Meredith. I'm 24, and I work the graveyard shift at a small gas station off County Road 11. The kind of place you don't notice unless you're running on fumes, or you've taken a wrong turn you'll regret. I took the job because it was quiet, predictable, and uneventful. At least, that's what I thought. It was a Thursday night, around 1:00 a.m. The air outside was heavy and wet, pressing against the windows, and the buzz of the overhead lights had been crawling under my skin for hours. I was about to microwave a cinnamon roll I didn't even want when the door chime shattered the silence. A man stepped in, mid-40s, maybe older. Green coat, messy hair, lips cracked and dry like he hadn't spoken or smiled in years. But instead of heading for the snacks or coffee like most people, he just stood near the counter, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Hi," I said, forcing a polite smile. His voice was low, almost too casual. "You always work this late?" I froze for a beat. Yeah, mostly." He smiled, thin and unsettling. "I figured. I've passed through a few times, noticed it's always you." A chill crept up my arms. I tried to brush it off. "Oh yeah, small town, I guess." But he didn't move, he didn't shop, he just stood there, still smiling, as if my answer was exactly what he wanted to hear. "Meredith, right?" he said. I froze. I wasn't even wearing a name tag. I opened my mouth to ask how he knew, but he didn't wait. He nodded toward the whiteboard where I'd scrawled, "Cinnamon coffee is back," and smiled like he'd uncovered a secret. "You have nice handwriting," he told me. "Most people dot their I's as circles. You use little slashes. It's very specific, thoughtful." His words slid under my skin. I didn't answer. He didn't buy anything. He just stood there for another minute, watching me as if he were cataloging small habits and reactions. Then he nodded once, introduced himself like a neighbor dropping in. "I'm Paul. Just curious, that's all," and melted back into the fog outside. After that, he started showing up in drips and scratches across my nights. Not every night, not enough to shout stalker, but often enough that I stopped calling it coincidence. Some nights he'd come inside and hover near the counter. Other nights he'd park at the edge of the lot, with his headlights off, a dark shape sitting so still the pumps looked like they were dreaming around him. One night I tried to pretend I didn't see him. He came in, bought a bottle of water, and stayed hovering near the counter like a question that wouldn't leave. "You're quiet tonight," he said. "Long shift," I muttered, keeping my eyes on the register. He slowly scanned the store, like someone cataloging inventory. "It must get lonely. Just you out here in the dark, no one else for miles." "I'm fine," I replied, forcing it like a practiced habit. He leaned on the counter, close enough that I could smell the dry skin of his lips. Then, in a voice that was almost casual, no menace, no edge, which made it worse, he asked, "You ever get scared being a woman alone at night?" That neutral curiosity was the thing that set my teeth on edge. It wasn't a threat. It was observation, like a weather report. I tried to push him away with a question. "Do you need anything else?" He cocked his head and smiled, that small, wrong smile. "You always keep the back room locked. Smart. I noticed you check it around 2:00 a.m. almost every night." My stomach dropped, and I said nothing. "I'll let you get back to it," he said, soft and almost apologetic, then slipped back into the fog. After that night, I stopped walking to my car like I used to, keys between my knuckles. A tire iron hidden under the counter became part of my uniform. I started locking down my life like I could barricade fear itself. New curtains, always locking the bathroom door even when I was alone, tiny rituals that made me feel a fraction safer. There were stretches where he didn't come at all. That quiet didn't calm me. It tightened the screws. Not knowing when he would reappear was worse than seeing him every night. One night, after a 10-minute break, I came back to the counter and froze. A Polaroid sat there, face up. It was a close shot of me leaning over the windshield washer bin behind the pumps, too close. The kind of photo that belongs in someone's private album, not on a gas station counter. No note, but whoever left it had circled the slash on my lowercase I and the word windshield on the bin label in red ink. That small, ridiculous mark felt like a signature and a threat at once. When he showed up next, I told him to go. I said I'd call the police if he didn't leave. He nodded like a man accepting a weather forecast. My voice cracked as I accused him of following me. He smiled that same thin smile and said, almost gently, that maybe I was too quick to judge that he was just someone who noticed things. I snapped back, breath stuttering. That's not paying attention. That's obsession, I said, voice thin. He didn't flinch. Instead, he tilted his head and smiled that same, small, wrong smile. Would it be easier if I wore a smile and brought you a soda every night? Would I be more normal if I talked about sports and pretended I didn't notice your shoes are a half size too big? Or how your left eyelid twitches when you're tired? By then, my hand was already on 911. I started the call while he watched, utterly calm. The police arrived faster than I expected. He didn't struggle. He simply stood there with his arms at his sides like a man who had finished a long shift. In his car, they found a notepad filled with dates and times. My schedule, notes about my walks, what I wore, what groceries I bought. One page was my name, written again and again in tighter looping circles until the letters dissolved into frantic scribbles. When the officers asked him what it all meant, he gave the same answer over and over. I just noticed things. I'm just a curious guy. The restraining order went through that week, and I quit the night shift for good. I don't even live in the same town anymore. The company moved me 2 hours away to another station, but the small, quiet terrors followed. Now, when I'm driving and someone's headlights ride behind me for too long, the hairs on the back of my neck prick up. Sometimes, in the middle of the grocery store or brushing my teeth, I'll hear his voice in my head saying my name, like he had been practicing how it would sound coming from his mouth. That little echo keeps me careful, awake in ways I never used to be. And now this next part I'm writing about just happened last night. I'm working another overnight at a different 24-hour gas station. I'm 22, female, and I've been here just under 2 months. I cover the weekend shifts, Thursday through Saturday. My coworker, I'll call him Max for privacy, works the weekday overnights from Sunday through Wednesday, around 2:30 a.m. My coworker Max and his friend Ben staggered in to grab coffee and say hi. They'd taken mushrooms a few hours earlier, so they were giggly and loose-lipped, which made the whole shop feel oddly bright for a minute. Their chatter was a welcome distraction from the hum of the lights and the solitude. Then Ben mentioned a car that had been sitting in the lot, with its engine running and headlights off someone inside. When he asked the man what he was doing, the guy said he was waiting on a DoorDash. That would have been normal drivers, park and wait all the time. But what made my skin tighten was that we hadn't had a single order in nearly 2 hours. I'd been working in the back most of the night, cleaning and away from the tills, so I hadn't even noticed the parking lot. Hearing them describe that dark, idling car made the building feel smaller, like the night was pressing in from the asphalt outside. We brushed it off as nothing at first. Max and Ben went back outside with his dog, lit a cigar, and started laughing like kids. I stayed behind the counter, but as soon as the bell over the door stopped ringing, the silence felt heavier. I kept thinking about that car, the way it had just been sitting there before they came in. How long had he been out there, watching? An hour passed before they came back in for more coffee. That's when Max leaned on the counter and told me the part that made my stomach knot. The car wasn't just parked anywhere, it was in a blind spot. Even if I stood at the register, I wouldn't see it because of the wall. He said while they were outside the whole time smoking, playing with his dog, the man inside the car kept switching between staring at them and staring down at his phone, like he was texting someone. Ben, high and fearless, had finally walked over and said, "What's up? Why are you looking at us?" That's when the guy rolled down his window, shrugged, and tried to pretend he didn't speak English. When ignoring him failed, the man switched to broken English and mumbled something about having the wrong address, then bolted out of the lot like a nervous animal. He was definitely higher than Max. His movements were jittery and off. But the thing that made my skin crawl was what Max noticed about the car. It looked brand new and had no license plate. Through the rear window, Max saw a pile of blankets in the back seat, enough to hide someone under. As if that weren't disturbing enough, another car eased into the lot at the same time, also brand new, also plateless, its headlights off. The moment the first car peeled away, the second one followed it out. Like a pair of shadows moving in step, Max hung around for 15 more minutes before finally leaving, telling me to be careful. He came back around 6 for more coffee, sober this time, and said the man had been watching them the whole time, his eyes flicking between his phone, the entrance to the lot, and the store doors, as if coordinating something no one else could see. Even Max admitted he was straight up freaked out once he sobered up. He came back to check on me, because something about the whole scene didn't sit right with the 2 plateless cars, the blankets in the back, and a man who'd been watching us. We both agreed on one thing. If they hadn't been out there goofing around, the night could have ended very differently. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe not. But the image of those cars slipping away together, headlights off, like shadows pairing up, didn't leave my chest. I carry a knife now, tucked where it won't rattle in my pocket. It's nothing glamorous, just a small, ugly piece of comfort. Still, my gut kept screaming that if there were more people involved, if those blankets hid someone waiting for the right moment, I might not have been able to fend them off alone. The thought of them stepping out once the lot cleared feels like a knife I carry around in my head. I work tonight again. I said I'd update if anything happened. I wish I didn't have news to give, but I do. Around 3:00 a.m., while I was mopping the floors and trying to make the tiles look less like a place where terror could happen, 4 guys came in for coffee and snacks. The bell over the door sounded ordinary, too ordinary, and I told myself not to let my shoulders knot up. They moved in like a flock, all talking loud enough to fill the store, but my eyes kept drifting to the windows and the parking lot. That's when my stomach went cold. The car was back. I was ringing them up when one of the guys asked if I knew anything about a car sitting at the far end of the lot. Engine running, lights off. I froze and asked, "What car?" He told me it looked like a brand new Subaru with no plates, and inside were 2 men arguing in the front seats. The second he said that, my stomach dropped. I told them a car, just like that, had been in the same spot the night before, but back then, there had only been one guy. The leader of their group explained that while they were pumping gas, they noticed the car just sitting there, watching. As they walked toward the store, passing close by, they heard one of the men inside talking loudly and pointing directly at the doors. One of them almost stepped closer to ask if everything was okay, but as soon as the men in the car noticed, they slammed it in reverse and sped off like they'd been caught doing something they weren't supposed to. That was the moment I realized this wasn't some random coincidence anymore. I told them I thought it was the same car from the night before, the one that had been acting weird while others were in the lot. When the group described how the driver panicked and fled with another car tailing him, my skin crawled. They offered to stick around for a while to make sure the car didn't come back. I hesitated, then let them. They hung out for about 20 minutes, sipping coffee and joking to keep the mood light, until we all convinced ourselves the worst had passed. I topped off their cups for free and watched them leave. The rest of my shift stayed quiet, but I didn't stop watching. Every time I had to go outside to change the trash or check the pumps, my heart did this stupid little jump. What terrifies me most is that I never actually saw the car myself. I only had the warnings from other people. That's worse, somehow. Multiple strangers telling the same story about a brand new, plateless car parked in a blind spot no one behind the register could see. I wanted to believe I was overreacting. I wanted to tell myself it was nothing. But 2 nights in a row, same time, same spot, same pattern, that's not coincidence anymore. I'm relieved I had company that night. If those men had decided to come inside, I don't know what would have happened alone. I don't work again for a few days, and I'm counting every minute until then. All I can hope is that when I clock back in, the car stays gone.